What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Snowcast Sports Talk, Episode 8, guys. We have the third guest here on the Snowcast, and it's actually the third person I got the opportunity to meet at the last Giants game I went to. It's Justin Penik from Talkin Giants. Justin, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Well, hello, my friend. Nice to see you again. Not even nice to meet you. We already did meet. You have to promise me something to start off this show.
Got it.
So I love that your profile pictures of yourself, myself, and then Christiana Tana. We have to take a new picture next year because since then I've lost a good amount of weight, and I want a new picture out there in the stratosphere for everybody to see, where it's skinny Justin, not chubby Justin. So you have to make that promise to me this season. We take another picture together.
Absolutely. Every guest I've had on, we've talked about all getting together at a Giants game, and you're absolutely right. I think, you know what, just for you, I'm even going to change it. I have a new logo I could change it to, but I just, that was a really great memory for me going there. That was actually my first Giants game, and the fact that that was my first game.
Awesome.
So I actually live in New England, so I'm up here in Patriots territory.
Okay.
So everyone hates me up here. Hates me. When I wear a Giants shirt to work or something, everyone's like, "Are you serious, Will? Like, what are you doing?" So, we will definitely take a new picture. Dude, I just have to say, the weight loss transformation has been ridiculous. Like, congratulations, you are a freaking grinder. As someone who has dealt with some weight issues in the past, I know what that grind is like, so hell yeah.
No, I appreciate that, man. It's been 3 months, so
That's crazy.
I can't even say that, like, oh, I've been grinding, because really it's just a program that I kind of just followed, and it was tough the first couple weeks, but then here we are, and you want to know what? I got sick and tired of YouTube. This is honestly what it was. I got sick and tired of YouTube and Instagram. Twitter is a lot nicer. YouTube and Instagram, like, making comments about, like, weight and stuff. People are mean. So
Yep.
Society peer pressured me into getting healthy.
That's like one of like the things about being a content creator. You're gonna take some heat on anything, literally anything.
Yeah.
Like I was telling you before we started, I literally did a podcast where the music was just a little bit too loud, and that was all anyone had to say about the or the hour and a half podcast that I put a ton of work into. Was music's too loud. I was like, okay,
Thanks.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
Thanks, appreciate it. So, a ton of things I want to talk about with you, Justin. So, the Snowcast, what we do here, or at least what I wanted to start doing, was bringing some content creators on in the Giants community and kind of giving them an opportunity to know you a little bit better, not just from like your personal side, but also from like, what got you into YouTube and what got you into podcasting and all this stuff. So, let's start all the way back at the beginning. What got you into football? How long have you been watching football for?
What got me into football? My father. My father got me into football, and just seeing him on Sundays watch the Giants. My earliest memory of a game was in 2004. I was 6 years old, and it was an away game, and the Giants and Eagles had some sort of fight. I don't know if the Giants were wearing red. I think they were wearing white. Their typical away jerseys, and I just remember there being a fight between the Giants and the Eagles, and that was like one of my first memories. And I remember a good amount of 2005. I went to my first game, week 2 of the 2005 season.
Wow.
Was my first game. And a little caveat about that game, and it was against the Saints. It was at the time Hurricane Katrina. So regular season ticket holders for the Giants, or I should say non-regular season ticket holders for the Giants, had the opportunity to go to that game because it technically wasn't a Giants home game. It was a Saints home game, but they didn't have, their stadium to play in since they were still, recovering from Katrina. So that was my first game. And then basically from there, I'm a Giants fan. And it was my father and I going to games as I was growing up, and going to Giants games is my favorite thing to do in the entire world, because for those set of hours, it's nothing else matters. Like, nothing else in your life matters. You can't do anything when you're at the stadium, when you're tailgating, when you're at the game, even if you want to. Even if it's like, oh, I got work I got to do, I got school I got to do, I got this to worry about, I got that to worry about. You physically can't do anything else besides just be present for that moment and be present for that game. And that's why I like, football so much, and particularly the Giants, because that, going to those games 8 times a year or 10 times a year with preseason, going to those games, it's like it's my happy place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't tell you, like, so my first game was the one I got to meet you at last year.
Yeah.
And the first thing that was great was being around a bunch of people that like the Giants. So the past couple years have been rough for the Giants. And I've been known at times to get a little bit frustrated with the Giants. My friends and family would say, Will, sometimes, you throw things, you hit the table, you get a little frustrated. And I would always tell them I'm frustrated because no one else is frustrated with me. And so I got to go to this Eagles game, and like the second play, Jones slides and hurts his neck, which would inevitably kick him out of the whole season. And every person around me was like, this is BS. Jones runs like a moron. And I was like, I'm finally home. Like, finally. So
that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other funny thing, too, I tell everyone this who I got to go to the game with, that was the last game the Giants won all year, was the one we went to.
Yeah, and they were on a little hot streak at home at that time where they won, I think, 3 out of their last 4 home games at that time, because that was the streak of Carolina, Las Vegas, Eagles. Those are the 3 home games that they won this year, and then the 4th game being on the road against the Saints earlier that year. So, yeah, you were in the middle of a little hot streak and hot stretch, and I'm glad you got to make it out to that game in particular, because we do have some really good tailgates. Snacks is the leader of the tailgates usually.
Yep.
When we go, but that day it was our event. Bobby was there, Tana was there, and we kind of chose that game intentionally. We thought that home Eagle game would mean a lot more, stemming from the 2020 season, since that was the Eagles basically just gave up, and Washington wound up winning that game. They pulled Hurts, blah blah blah. So we thought that game would have a lot more meaning. It didn't, but having the Candlewick Diner cater that event,
so cool.
We want to do more of that, this upcoming season, and hopefully the Giants are a little bit more competitive, and we take them a little bit more seriously as a team, so more people actually want to go to the game itself.
Yep, absolutely. And so for anyone who doesn't know, Justin here is part of the Talkin Giants podcast with his co-host Bobby, and their guy's one of the most popular Giants podcasts in the world right now, and they were able to put on this event where they basically had, like Justin was saying, they had this whole tailgate catered. They had all these all these content creators, including the entertainer, come out, and it was just, what was funny, Justin? It was the same thing. I looked at the tickets, and I just said to myself, the Eagles game is the one I have to go to, because screw the Eagles. I'm still butthurt about the year before. So you picked the perfect game to do the tailgate, and then once I figured out all of you were going to be there, I was so excited. I was like, wow, I can't believe I lined that up. So that's awesome.
So we wanna do a little bit more of that stuff this year, and I'm excited I'm even going to Nashville. I'm going to Nashville, and I'm hoping that there's a lot of Giants fans that can join me, or if they're already going, meet up with me there. And I wanna have a really good time in Nashville, because Nashville's awesome, because we are playing the Titans this year in Tennessee. Nice,
yeah, and yeah, like you said, Nashville's a cool place. Titans will be a tough game though, but it could that could be a win. My Giants glasses will come on when I look at the schedule, and I'll be like, they can win that. Oh, look at they're going 12-5. Wow, I can't believe it.
Strength of schedule. They have one of the lowest strengths of schedule in National Football League. This is our year. Let's do it.
Finally, last year it was not like that. It felt like every game it was like, oh God, we're playing them
tough.
this week. Yeah,
it's tough. Yeah.
So, football, being a Giants fan, been watching with your dad. So then let's talk a little bit about the YouTube aspect and Talkin Giants. So, like, what got you into YouTubing? Like, what was like hey, I might give this a shot?
Well, our bosses at John Boy Media really incentivized YouTube, because for 2018, 2019, and then it was the 2020 season is when Bobby and I really started to really consistently post on YouTube and figure out our groove. So I was podcasting with the podcast called I had a show called Bleeding Blue that I did from 2018 to 2019. I since have rebranded that into a Giants history show, but that used to be my full-time Giants show that I did with David Powis. So that's how I started. And I was not on YouTube, and I kind of regret not being on there. And even if things didn't look great, sound great, I should have just thrown our episodes up on there and just see what happens, because YouTube is such a it's such an interesting and what's the word? Fruitful opportunity to kind of grow your audience. So, and you're already doing a great job. I was checking out your channel today. You're already doing a great job in terms of, you have your subscribers on there, and you have, good amount of views on your podcast to start. So congratulations on that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. So it was our bosses that are like, listen, this is the way to go. You should do it too. So that's what we did. So what I really like about our YouTube though is it's not just the podcast. Like Talkin Giants is the brand.
Yep.
There's a show within Talkin Giants, and there's a podcast that 3 times a week during the regular season, twice a week during the off season. There's a show, but Talkin Giants is also a brand that also has a history show, Bleeding Blue. Yep. It has Bobby's offensive line breakdowns. It has Bobby's free agency breakdowns. It has my stat reports that I started this year. It has, live streams, everything like that. So it's not just this one trick pony of one kind of video. It is multiple different things that I really feel covers everything that you would want as a Giants fan. And you can consume just the podcast. You can consume just the shorter videos if you want to be the history buff and you want to relive the glory days and screw the current times of losing, then there's also that for you too. So I feel like what Talkin Giants does, the brands, is it covers everything you possibly can need or want as a Giants fan every single day of the year. And that's why I really love our YouTube channel and our YouTube page, because specifically there's so much that we do cover on there, and it's not just the podcast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you don't give yourself, you and Bobby, not that you don't give yourself, but you also go on Twitter and then you're open to feedback and you guys interact with the community too, which is, that's just like the next step. It's like, oh, hey, we get to see this channel, which you're absolutely right. Your channel is so diverse and you guys are always trying new things and there's always something for someone there. I've had people comment on some of my videos who came over from like my old content creation before I was doing Giant stuff, and they say, hey, I wanted new people to listen to. Who should I go to? You guys are always one of the first ones because you can get into the analytics of football. You can get into the history of football. You can get into the individual players, like with Bobby's offensive line report, like stuff like that. It's all over the place and really eclectic, and I really like that about your channel. It was one of the reasons I reached out to you because I've been listening to you guys for a while now. I was like, yeah, you guys, like, I appreciate your, like, not hustle, but, like, the amount of work you put into it is really admirable. So it's awesome.
No, I appreciate that, Will. And also, you got to enjoy it, too.
Yeah.
You got to enjoy it. And I think Bobby and I have found a way to enjoy it despite the team being really bad. And if you're not enjoying it, and if you're not kind of friendly with each other and you don't have that good chemistry, especially, since that comes off mostly on the show, if you're not enjoying it, then, it's not going to be received well. And I think that's also the basis of it. It's it's a lot and we do a lot, but also we enjoy every single thing that we put out. And it definitely, it fits our strengths. We're not trying to stretch and be people who we're not, when we put out, our kinds of videos. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the chemistry between you and Bobby is awesome. You're right. That's another piece of it that is hard to find, honestly. I know when I was starting this, I'm like, oh man, it'd be fun if I could do this with my brother or do this with one of my friends. And they're like, we just don't like the Giants as much as you do. So finding that person who you can kind of, meld with in a way and have that content, be able to bounce off each other. It's nice. I even find that's one of the reasons I like having guests on sometimes, Justin, because what I'm going to do is, we go through, some of the history of, what you've been doing, but then I like to just talk football for a little bit because, I figure if I can't have a co-host, I'm just going to bring everyone on. That's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to cheat the system. I'm going to get each person on once.
Yeah, I love that. That's the way to go.
One of the things I do ask a lot of content creators too, and I struggle with this, is like your friends and your family around you who maybe aren't as into the Giants. Do they understand just, like how much you and Bobby are doing and how much work you're putting into it, and honestly how successful you have been and how much you have seen, like how much success you've seen recently?
That's a great question. And I don't think about that often because now I'm very thankful and I'm honored that this is now my job. Yep. Whereas before, it was a hobby and maybe it's just something cool. Maybe I was like, oh, look at this cool thing that happened. Oh, look at how, we're on the charts here. And After Daniel Jones's first win, that episode did really well, and I was really happy with it. Everybody's episode after Daniel Jones's first win did really well, but still, I was a senior. Yeah, I was a senior in college at that point, and still new to it and on my own, and criminal justice major, having a Giants podcast. So, I was at a different point in my life where now it's like this is my work, this is my job, and
that's crazy. That's awesome.
Like I said, I'm honored, and it's still crazy for me to say. I started podcasting because of John Boy Media. I was a fan and listener of Talkin Yanks.
Yep.
And then I left a voicemail for Talkin Yanks, and then I said, all right, I'm gonna start one of my own, because John Boy commented on like my presence and tone as a voicemail caller on their show. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start one of my own. And
wow.
Then lo and behold,
that's amazing.
Lo and behold, I think 2 years, 3 years later, I'm working for them, and I'm part of the company. So, yeah, so that's how I think of it now. It's like there are a lot of my friends who have full-time jobs, and they're doing great things. And it's a little bit different with me, where sometimes I'll be walking around MSG when there's a Knicks game going on, going to the John Boy Media office, and somebody will stop me and take a picture and like, hey, I'm a huge fan of Talkin Giants. So it's different in that sense of, I think a few more people may know me versus, one of my best friends who works for the State House down in Trenton, where he's doing good things about like passing bills down there. So it's different. It is tough to communicate, I guess, how much work can actually go into it.
Yep.
I can imagine some people like, well, you're just talking about sports. You just talk about the Giants. And, well, it is what it's called, but that's just like what you do. But yeah, man, that's a really good Will. That's a really, really great question. And it's something that I do think about, but I really feel like now that since the world has turned a little bit differently to, hey, you can hustle and be a content creator, you can hustle and be a YouTuber, versus other jobs where you have to go to school for 4 years, you spend how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you're making just as much. I think people are way more like understanding and accepting of like, there are a lot of different kind of hustles you can do out there, and if you're gonna at the end of the day provide a living for yourself, go out there and do it. So
yeah, I love it. And I always ask because it was kind of it's always an awkward conversation. I started off, I was streaming Elder Scrolls Online, and I was like, when I graduated college, I said to my parents, I said, hey, can you give me 6 months? Give me 6 months, and I just want to stream every day and try to make a living out of it. And I'm the first to tell you, I got sick of it, and it didn't work out because, like you said earlier, you have to love it, Because if it becomes something more than just loving it, then people can see that and they just go to the next person. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, and that's amazing that you and that you've been able to switch over full time to doing it. I was listening. You guys post so many podcasts. I was trying to catch up. I'm like, okay, Justin's going to be on Tuesday. It's Sunday. Let me catch up. And I was listening to it was the Bills draft, and then you guys were talking about the edges.
Yeah.
And you were talking about that, and I was like, that is amazing. I mean, that's the dream. So, and it's like, don't ever sell yourself short. Like, it's a lot of work to get there. And you're right, too. The world has shifted to a point where people can see this is, a real career-building thing. It can lead to so many other avenues. I mean, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about John Boy Media and a little bit about what that company's about, because me being a new listener, I was like, oh, I didn't realize this was part of a bigger thing. I was looking, I'm like, oh my God, look at Talkin Yanks. Look at what they do. I'm like, I didn't even realize that was a part of it. I thought Talkin Giants was its own thing until I started doing research before you came on.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, John Boy Media is, I don't know the exact stats around it, and I don't know the exact like how are there other media companies out there, but John Boy Media is one of the fastest growing media companies right now. I mean, we're literally talking about 2018. Jimmy O'Brien and Jake Storiale are recording from their houses and apartments. Jake is in Denver. John Boy is in Lafayette, New Jersey, and kind of living near his parents. They have him and his girlfriend. They had their own house at the time. Now I think now they're married. But they're just doing Talkin Yanks, and then they're doing they're gonna start like this radio show called John Boy and Jake Radio, and Hey, they're thinking about maybe forming an actual like media company and starting something with like multiple shows, and they're thinking about starting a network. They're gonna start a Talkin' Baseball podcast. Oh, they're gonna move up. Jake is gonna move to New York, and they're gonna get an office in the Bronx. So all these things have happened, and even from going to the Bronx to now they're in Manhattan. There's a huge office that they have in Manhattan that I'm starting to go up to a little bit. Now that they're gonna get some of their recording studios going, and they have a live stream lounge that Bobby and I were gonna be live streaming the 15 plus hours of the NFL draft this year. We're going to be, live streaming that, all being together in the same room, live streaming it together and talking about the draft. And all this has happened for them in the span of 3-4 years. We're in 2022 right now. And, so really it's been 3 years. All of this has kind of happened with John Boy Media. And I will say, Bobby always takes credit for this. It was when Bobby asked John Boy, hey, you want there to be a Talkin' Giants on this network that isn't even really a network yet, because it was just Talkin' Yanks and maybe some other shows that John Boy did? And John Boy was like, sure. And that's when John Boy Media really started to take off. So Bobby takes a lot of credit for John Boy Media's rise, even though it doesn't really have anything to do with him, but he still takes credit because that's when he joined and that's when they started to skyrocket.
Hey, you know what? There's got to be a correlation there. There's got to be a correlation. I got to side with Bobby on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, one of the other things I like to ask is, what are those, let's say me, for example, someone getting into it. What's like some of the tips maybe you wish you had known starting out that are things that, there's no like super secret formula to making everything work out. It's grinding and a little bit of luck and a lot of hard work. And But I didn't know if there was anything maybe you've learned along the road that you wish you had known earlier.
Have a plan.
Yeah, love it.
Have a plan where, I started Bleeding Blue in 2018, and I felt like I had a very good plan where I didn't just start a podcast and then just go. I did wait. I had the idea in like 2017 to November 2017 that I want to start something, that I maybe want to do something. And then I didn't actually launch the first episode until June of 2018.
Wow.
Because I was, well, what do I want this show to look like now? It wasn't great. Like I never want to go back and listen to that episode 1 and hear what we were talking about, hear what we were doing. I don't want to do that. It's not going to be good for my mental health. But have a plan. And I have taken that kind of philosophy of mapping out what you want to do, because when you launch new things, it could hit. But also it's more common that if you start something new, it's not going to hit right away. So if you have a plan that's like, listen, I want to start the launch of start a launch of a show, start a launch of a channel, publish these videos, do whatever content on social media, and I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to be consistent, because the worst thing about content is when you're inconsistent. And even if you have 2 people that are listening to you, they're expecting an episode every Monday and every Thursday. If you're not giving them what they're looking for on that Monday and Thursday, then you might have lost those 2 people. They might have unfollowed you. They might have turned the post notifications off, whatever. The algorithm, other videos you could be replaced in the algorithm. So it's all about consistency. And if you have a plan on how you can be consistent, even if the numbers and even if the return isn't what you're expecting, then you can stick with it and give yourself a shot at gaining some kind of momentum. Or, really, even if you're not looking forward to get the most amount of people to listen to you, I feel like at least if you have a plan, then it's just easier to be consistent. It's easier to be like, all right, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to enjoy the process and stick to that. So that's really what I would say that's really what I try to say to anybody who's kind of like starting out, is map out what you want to do, map out the content that you want to create, have it match your strengths, and then try and see it through.
Yeah, I love that. I think I even need to get better at posting on certain dates. Like my whole thought is, after this, I'll just post it up online. But then it's like, how do they know I never post on a Tuesday? So that's a really good point. And having a plan too, I think that actually takes out some of the anxiety of starting it, because you kind of have that blueprint. And it sounds like, there's probably no like determined time limit, but just taking some time to really blueprint out what you're going to do probably takes away some of the anxiety as you're kind of going through those. Because as you know, the first couple of podcast episodes are a little rough, and the sound, the script, what you talk about, you go back and look, and like you said, you don't even want to watch it. But it just, some of that stress and anxiety maybe gets removed. So I love that. It's a really good tip.
Yeah. And also, I'm gonna add one more thing too.
Go ahead.
Social media is so important. Like, people do not utilize, especially Twitter. I think Twitter is the most important, and then obviously Instagram and Facebook is also very profitable and important too. John Boy Media, like they're one of their main points of revenue is Facebook, along up there with YouTube. But in terms of garnering a community of people that are going to be diehards, that are going to stick with you no matter what, you kind of build those up. I think on social media, I think it's easier to build up those people and form a relationship with people. And I put relationship in quotes because you're not meeting these people, but forming a relationship with, your audience on social media. You can do it on YouTube, and I think that involves a lot of live streaming, but Twitter and Instagram, that was really underutilized by me 2018. And I kind of looked at myself in the mirror and I said, well, what am I doing wrong, or what am I not doing compared to other people who are successful, and what are they doing? And I saw like the NYG Weeklies of the world, Ethan and Weiss. Ethan at that point was, with his game day gifts and his videos. I saw that he was doing that, and that was garnering a lot of attention. And those are two guys that, along with Talkin Yanks, like those were the two podcasts that I listened to when I started podcasting. So following those guys and seeing how they operated on social media, NYG Daily Weiss has like the largest following, besides Jordan and Ronan, the largest following of any Giants page out there on social media. It's almost like 60,000 followers. So I'm like, well, that's what I have to do. I have to convince people to click on my show.
Yep.
By posting on social media, by posting quick clips, stats, tweets, whatever, something that can engage people on social media. Maybe especially outside of just tweeting, but people love videos, people love highlights, people love, interacting with something. I try to include my face sometimes too, because people, if they see that there's movement, if they see like there's movement with like a football highlight, and then also see like maybe there's a face, this is maybe some kind of voiceover, that gets people to click on it. And you have basically 5 seconds. You have 5 seconds to convince somebody, am I going to continue to watch this video, or am I going to click off? You have 5 seconds, and hopefully you make content that gets people to watch longer than 5 seconds on social media. That's the idea. So that when I started to post more on social media and post more on Twitter, when I started the live stream on Periscope, when that was a thing, when I started to tweet updates for Giants training camp, that's when I really started to gain a little bit of traction, is Giants training camp, and going to that since I was still a college student in 2019.
Yep.
Tweeting Daniel Jones and Eli Manning updates throughout 2019, tweeting Odell Beckham Jr. updates. How is the defense looking, even though this defense is supposed to be really, really bad? Is Lorenzo Carter making some really nice plays during the summer of 2019 when people were still very high on him, right? So those are the things that I did, and also finding a way where not a lot of fans were doing that. Beat reporters will tweet out their kind of reports, but not a lot of fans were doing that, so I jumped on that, and that's when I started to gain a little bit momentum. And then I found that my numbers started to go up once my Twitter followers started to go up. So that's also a key too, where especially if I had to tell myself something back in 2018, it would be use Twitter more, use Instagram more, use social media more.
Love it. Yes, that's another really, really good one. Something I should probably do more of as well. So, I'm not using this for me, but God, you're giving these tips. I'm like, oh, damn, I should write these down.
No, it's tough. It's tough because especially if you're working or if you're in school, like I was, you do the podcast or you do shows, you record videos because, again, you enjoy it. But then if you have that extra added goal of, I do want my audience to grow, how can I do that? Well,
Yep.
it does take that extra step of, well, I need to work just as hard at doing this thing so people can click on to the thing that I really work hard at as well. So it really is kind of that double-edged sword. And I know it's tough. Like it's like I said, I'm honored and I'm very, very lucky that now like this is what I do. But there was a years where Bobby and myself, Bobby had a full-time job and I was in school, and then even for 2020, I was working a full-time job while also doing Talkin Giants. So it's tough.
Yeah.
It is easier said than done for sure.
Always. And you know, the other thing I want to talk about here, shifting topics just a little bit. By the way, great tips. Those are really good ones.
Thank you.
I think you get the trophy on the Snowcast for best tips so far. We'll mail it out to you. The other thing you need to get mailed out for, or you need to get a reward for, were those no-look passes I watched on the John Boy 2022 Media Scouting Combine. An absolute gem of a video. I have to tell you, again, I get these questions. People go, hey, Will, like the podcast. Who else can I go listen to? And I send them that video. I say, you want to find a group of content creators and see what Giants fans are truly like? This is the Giants community summed up in a video pretty damn perfectly. But let me tell you, those no-look passes were crispy. They were crispy.
That was a lot of fun. And I'm very glad and I'm very happy that if there was one drill that I was going to do well in, it was the no-look pass. You know, I've had
The media eats that up.
throws. I've had a lot of they do.
They love it.
I
No one worries about the 40-yard dash, all right? Don't worry about that.
This is such a great idea, and I don't know if it's too late because the video came out like 3 weeks ago. But this is such a great idea. If Patrick Mahomes made this throw, the media would lose their minds. You know how people tweet that out all the time?
You should tweet it. You should tweet that. All right.
I need to clip it. I need to clip that part of me doing the no look pass and hitting some throws, and the caption should be, if Patrick Mahomes made these throws, the internet would be,
That's 1,000
internet
likes.
would break.
I'm telling you.
It would.
That's perfect.
So, Will, you deserve credit for that. But no, the scouting combine, I kind of honestly used that video as almost a little bit of a test run. Really, it was the first ever kind of video that myself or Bobby, Talkin Giants, Bobby wasn't not part of that because he lives in Florida, but that was the first like IRL video that we ever did, ever, and that is the content that I really want to start to turn to as kind of I don't want to say years, but as our time goes on as content creators. I want to do more stuff like that, and the Scouting Combine can be a thing that we do with John Boy Media and other content creators every year, and we can have more people come out every March, and then we'll do it in February, March, whatever. Put it out during the Scouting Combine. But those are the kind of videos that I want to turn to because there's not a lot of people that are doing that. There's not a lot.
No, I've never seen anything like that in the Giants community.
And whenever somebody does do videos that are like IRL, and I know John Boy Media, they do the blitzball stuff, it hits. It really does hit. People love to see non-athletic people try and do athletic things.
You guys are pretty athletic. You guys did some things that I was like, yeah, it's funny and there's good commentary, but some of it was actually pretty impressive. I want to say. Yeah.
Blew us away.
I got to give Snacks a little bit of credit. I know his 40-yard was a little bit underwhelming, but this guy was in a jacket that was a fit jacket. That was not your granddad's jacket. That was made custom to fit. He had a pretty good 40 for that.
Jeans, and he didn't have shoes on either, which I honestly think maybe I'm wrong with this, but not having shoes on turf makes it a little bit more like slippery, and I think that's why he fell at the end.
No traction.
So, I don't know. Snacks is a wild guy.
His commentary was beautiful.
His 40 was certainly something, and it's something every single year because I feel like he always decides to fall at a different point in the 40, whether it's the first 5 yards, 20 yards, or at the 40-yard mark. But he's great. And I love Snacks is hilarious, and I want to do more of those kind of videos with him. Like my idea is that it's us. We're doing the activities, events, drills, whatever. And I want to do more stuff like that. Obviously not as big scale as the Combine. The Combine's going to be the big scale video with, the 4 different cameras every year. But, we want to do more of those kind of videos where it's IRL passing challenges, agility tests, whatever. And that's the stuff that we really want to try and accomplish and do this season.
Yeah, and the great part was it was like mixed really nicely with comedy, but not to the point where it felt like it was overdone. Like I put a comment, I just said not overdone, which sometimes when people don't be offended if I call it a skit. That's just like where my mind went, kind of like a skit combine of like, oh hey, let's get all these content creators around here and let's do this. It just wasn't. It was just so well done. It was like, this feels real, and that makes it better.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that, and I was really happy with how it came out, because like I said, it was the first time that we ever did that, and I've wanted to do that for a very long time, and I was really mapping it out. I took a screenshot of the field on Google Earth, and I was like drawing arrows. I was like Charlie Day from, I think It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where he has that big board and all the lines pointing everywhere, and that's what that screenshot of Google Earth looked like. And I was drawing arrows, and I'm like, all right, this camera's gonna go here, this camera's gonna go here, this camera's gonna move down here for this drill, this camera's gonna be on the roof overlooking everything, and then we can have replays. So it felt like kind of Picasso putting together a painting a little bit, kind of directing that. But it was a lot of fun. And I want to tackle that even more, and I want to do even more stuff like that, because it seemed like people really did enjoy it.
Yeah, it's unique. It's really unique. And I have to say one final thing, or I would not be happy if I didn't say this. My favorite part in the whole thing is when you're going to do your 40-yard, and I think it's Snacks who says like his last year's time was 4:47. I'll start laughing, and he goes, unofficial.
Yeah. Snacks is like, can he do better than his 4.32 last year? And then Jake was like, unofficial.
It was so good. Like at that point, I was sold. I was like, all right, I'm here for this. No,
I was embarrassed, man. I was embarrassed with my 40. It was so bad, and I lost at that. I've lost more weight now compared to the beginning of March, but, I started running, and I'm like, oh shit, my legs are so much more heavier than my upper body. Like, I think that's why I was really running with my neck, because I was trying to will myself to go, because my legs just were not moving at the same speed as I thought that they would. I honestly think, and I did this comparison. I did a side-by-side video of the 40-yard dash that I did in 2021, where, I did like a Manscaped video for that. And then this year, at the actual combine, I ran faster when I was heavier. Like I did a side-by-side video, and I made sure that I timed it up exactly when I started to run, and I think I was quicker when I was heavier. So I was embarrassed by that this summer. I'm gonna train. I'm not gonna overly do it, but I'm gonna train on my agility. I'm gonna train on the fast twitch muscle fibers, and I'm trying to get that time.
You're trying to get the gold next year.
6 seconds. Yeah. I want that time to get down to 6 seconds. The worst ever 40-yard dash that anybody at the combine ran was a 5.8. That was the worst 40 ever. And I want to try and get like within 0.2 of that. I'm going to be slower than that. I'm not going to be faster than that. But that's my goal for next year.
I love it. That's a good goal. All right. Well, so I've listened to Talkin Giants for a while. You guys, I would put you as, you guys are a pretty high-end, very informative podcast. And so I wrote down some really disgusting, mud-worth crap takes that I want your take on.
Of ours?
No. Of just Giants, like the.
We have some bad takes.
You do, but you got like we've been talking about. You guys are very knowledgeable. You know what you're talking about. So I just went through Giants Twitter, kind of the underground of it, and found some takes. And I just wanted some opinions.
Okay.
So the first one is Odell coming back, and do you want him back?
No.
No and no? No, he's not coming back, and no, you don't want him back?
No.
No.
This one, is he torn both ACLs and like both legs?
Same one twice.
It's the same one twice?
Yeah.
What do you is he gonna get a new one? Like, how does that work?
I don't know. You know what the worst part is? At least from what I understand of this surgery, and I am no way a medical professional, is usually after the surgery, it's actually stronger.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting that we talk about this now, because this is very useful for Saquon Barkley. There's like fantasy football data that's out there that talks about your you're actually at like your strongest and you're at your peak the second year after your ACL surgery. So this is Saquon Barkley's second full year stemming off the ACL. So this should be like his best, if the data is going to continue with him, it should be his best year as a pro. But no, Odell, we had a conversation on Bleeding Blue. It was actually just this week about, can we start to talk about Odell Beckham Jr. again without having a brain aneurysm or freaking out? And I think we are approaching that point.
We're getting close.
You think we're not close?
No, I think we're getting close. I do.
Yeah, I think we're getting close just because Gettleman's gone, and now that Odell won a Super Bowl, and honestly, I do think him like being so hurt kind of helps, because if he were not hurt and just killing it, I think people would feel a certain way about that. Either, nah, screw him, let him do what he wants, or, oh no, we should have never traded him. I think the fact that he got a Super Bowl, he continues to be hurt, and the Giants basically don't have anybody well, they have Dexter Lawrence, but O'Shane Ximines is not significant, and Jabril is not on the team anymore. I think we're all calmed down from it now. I think we've all mellowed out, and we're like, all right, we can kind of talk about Odell, but no, he's not a fit for what the Giants are doing right now.
No, I agree. So I'm gonna own up to it. When I first, started watching the Giants, I would tell people, "Oh yeah, I watched it with my granddad. Oh yeah, I've been a Giants fan forever." That's not true. Let's not get the story muddied here. I'm gonna own up.
Odell.
I'm gonna own up to why I like the Giants. I was in college, and I had a bunch of friends from Connecticut. I went to University of Maine, so I'm up in the boondocks, and I have a bunch of Connecticut kids, and we're just watching Eli and Odell in 2015 ball out. Mm-hmm. And I just fell in love with football, and I fell in love with the Giants. So if I'm telling you I wasn't hurt when Odell was traded, that's a lie. I was heartbroken, but I do agree. I understand why, at the time, I actually understood why Gettleman traded him. I was like, Jabril probably going to be better than Collins. We get another first-round pick. We get a third-round pick. Okay. And they take the big contract off our hands. But, yeah, is he a fit here? No. I think the only position, and I don't know if this is a popular position, I think we're strong at receiver. I don't think we need any more wide receivers. Good God. I feel like every time I look, we sign a new one to be our eighth stringer. It's like, come on.
The only problem with the wide receiver group is that you just don't know
who's playing,
how much they're going to be on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the issue, is that you look at it, it's like, yeah, there's depth, and you include Slayton in there too. You feel solid about it, but Sterling Shepard coming off a major injury, Kenny Golladay, even when he was on the field, sometimes it felt like he was off, and Kadarius Toney is just a whole nother dense conversation as well. So that's the issue. So Bobby Skinner in his, the mock draft that he just did and he just put out on YouTube, took Christian Watson in round 2. And I feel like I like that. I feel like
really?
I kind of like that, because and I think so here's Giants takes. I am more excited about pick 36 than I am 5 and 7. I am nervous. Nervous about picks. Nervous about picks 5 and 7 in terms of, are they going to reach for a player? Are they going to reach for a Trayvon Walker? Are they going to reach for a Charles Cross? Are Kayvon Thibodeau, Evan Neal, Ikem Ekwonu, are they going to be gone in the top 3? Are they going to be gone in the top 4? So I'm worried about all of that. But pick 36 though, there seems to be so many good value players in this NFL draft. This is all throughout the draft too, and this is what a lot of the draft heads and the talking points are saying, and I kind of do agree with them, where sometimes I try and stay away from the cliche draft talking points. I do think that this is a draft that has a lot of good depth and a lot of good value kind of all throughout it, and I think pick 36 really is the epitome of that good value, because I think there's going to be a ton of good players there, and I almost think position almost doesn't matter. Just take that best player there, and you'll get a solid football player. And also the Giants are in a point where they need almost every position, so you can take BPA and feel good about it, because they have so many positions of need that it's like, oh, we missed this guy, we missed this position, we missed that guy. Well, they took a wide receiver, but they still do need wide receivers, because their top 3 wide receivers are extremely injury prone.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm definitely a positional value guy. So sometimes BPA scares the crap out of me. Like, I'm honestly, the thing that scars me the most as a Giants fan, I've only been a Giants fan for about 7 years, is the Saquon pick. That one just still really haunts me. But either way, I have 2 more crap takes, and then I do want to talk about the draft with you, because I actually don't mind Charles Cross. But at 5, it seems like a reach. If they trade back at 5 and then take Cross at 7, I would not be distraught. But I understand people who don't like him. He's definitely not as refined. But here's the next take. This one's even worse. They get worse and worse. Should we take a quarterback in pick 5 or 7? And if so, which one would you take? If you had to take one, which one would you take?
If I had to take one, I would take Malik Willis, and that's the only one that I'm even willing to entertain. I'm not willing to entertain anybody else.
I kind of like Corral.
Yeah, Corral's good.
He's not 5 or 7 worth, but I like him.
I don't know if Corral fits what Brian Dable wants
Agreed.
to do. I think Corral fits what, if the Steelers want to continue to be a quick hitting offense.
Yes, absolutely.
I think he fits there, because Corral's a very good distributor of the football. I mean, that's
quick
what he
release.
did at Ole Miss, and it was so RPO heavy, and it's not like he's going to go to an NFL system and they could run RPO, but it's not going to be solely RPO, and that's what Ole Miss was. But Corral, he has a nice deep ball, has solid athleticism, but I think Brian Dable's going to want to look for somebody, and I think at least in my opinion,
I agree with what you're about to say.
I think most NFL teams should look for higher end traits in NFL quarterbacks than Matt Corral. Matt Corral probably has the second best traits out of the QB class, but there's a reason why people are saying that this year's QB class, is not great, and that it's a bad class. So I'm not smart enough to say if it's a bad class or not. I'm just gonna say the only guy that I would be willing to entertain and take is Malik Willis. Or even if the Saints want to go back in terms of Corral, even if the Saints want to go back to some of their Drew Brees days of him kind of distributing the football too and kind of slinging around the yard a little bit, I think that can fit as well. But I don't think it necessarily fits like Brian Dable wanting to run crossing routes over the middle of the field. I think Malik Willis has that arm and the arm strength to deliver the football with the correct amount of velocity into those tight windows that I think Dable would be looking for. But I don't think the Giants do take a quarterback, and I'm pretty 100% sure positive of it.
Me too.
And I have 3 reasons. Number 1, does Joe Shane have his full staff of front office people, scouts? Is Chris Pettit even his director of college scouting that he wants?
I hope not.
In there. I certainly hope not too, because Chris, you want to talk about Saquon Barkley. Chris Pettit was one of the main architects behind taking Saquon Barkley at 2, just being goo gaga, falling in love with him. And that's one of the reasons why the Giants are in this mess that they are in right now, because they took Saquon Barkley number 2 in 2018.
Yep.
So, but I understand why you can't fire a director of college scouting like
a month before.
In the month.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just a couple months before the draft, and when there's still so much preparation that you have to do. And then there also was a lot of preparation that already went into the draft when Joe Shane was hired. So I understand that. But is Joe Shane really going to put his job on the line for a quarterback when he may not even have his preferred people in the front office yet? That's number 1.
Such a good point, by the way, just so you know.
Number 2, Dan Duggan came on our show and talked about Davis Webb is going to make the 53-man roster. He's going to. And
I believe it.
Because he didn't just turn down any coaching job with the Bills. He turned down the QB coach. They were willing to offer Davis Webb to go from practice squad, 3rd string, whatever quarterback, and he was going to be launched into the premier QB coach position with the Buffalo Bills. So I don't think Davis Webb was ready for that. I don't think he was ready to hang up the cleats yet. So Brian Dable offered him, they offered him the contract, whatever, he signs it. And you would think that since Davis Webb declined the QB job, you would think that he's not just going to be stashed away on the practice squad for the Giants. You would think. Like, I don't think the Giants would do him dirty like that.
No, me neither.
He's going to be QB3. And also what that means, if you take Malik Willis at 5 or 7, then that means you need to trade Daniel Jones. And if you draft Malik Willis and you already have Tyrod Taylor and Davis Webb, you're not releasing him, I think that would be a really bad move. I think they like Davis Webb too much to last minute decide that they want a quarterback and then release him. And you could be listening to this being like, Justin, why would a third string guy that's never going to play quarterback have anything to do with what they're going to do? I think it's optics, and I think it's just a professional way to operate. And I think Davis Webb is a huge part of that. So they would need to trade Daniel Jones, and then Daniel Jones would have no value if the Giants have 4 quarterbacks on their roster that they can't release any of them. So I think they're going to roll with Daniel Jones. I do genuinely think that they do want to see what they have in Daniel Jones.
Agreed.
I think they want to give Daniel Jones an opportunity since his rookie year, where, it's tough to put a lot of pressure on a guy's rookie year, and that team wasn't even good at all.
Nope,
but
not good.
I think they want to give Daniel Jones an opportunity with a scheme that optimizes his strengths, hopefully a little bit better of an offensive line, hopefully some healthy skill position players, and things are just a little bit more stable for him this year. They want to see what he's got, and I don't think that's just a Mara thing. I think it also is the Shane thing, and I think it is a Dable thing, that they at least want to see what they have in him, and it serves as a good buffer year to see what you also have in the rest of the roster as well.
Yeah, and the other reason, too, that comes to mind, again, is Mara. He just can't keep his mouth shut about Daniel Jones. Every time he gets near a mic, he's like, let me tell you about old Dimes. He's over.
We screwed this guy over. It's like, all right, thanks, John. We get it.
John, it's not we, it's you. But okay, I guess we'll all take part of the blame. Those are good reasons, and I definitely agree. All right, final crap take, and then we did say we were going to go for an hour, so just let me know when you want to end it, because I do have a couple more topics. So
go. I'm good. I'm having a ball. Let's do it.
All right, love it. I love it. So the next one I had, this is the worst one. I don't, and if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to. Okay. Mm-hmm. Would you take Drew Brees over the last 15 years over Eli Manning? Like, if you could replace Drew Brees and his stats, his career wins, 1 Super Bowl, and replace it with Eli Manning's 2 Super Bowls, what would you prefer? Okay.
No, because also we talk about this on Bleeding Blue too. The way that you write the Giants' stories of how they won those 2 Super Bowls, it cannot get any better. It can't.
That's such a good point, Justin. You're just full of good points. Keep going.
Football's an entertainment sport. It's not just about, there's entertainment value in the Patriots winning every year, blah, blah, blah. But
sure,
I feel like there's more entertainment value, and there's more ups and downs. The highs are the highest of highs, the lows are the lowest of lows as Giants fans versus Saints fans. I really do, because if the Saints, okay, you're a team that makes it to the NFC divisional round and the NFC championship every year, or around that range, right? You're winning your division, you're getting home field advantage, and then your season kind of just ends. Versus the Giants, either you're screw Coughlin, screw Eli, get him out, ship him out, and then a calendar year later, they're winning a Super Bowl. And it's like, we love them, they're royalty, and then same thing in 2011, 4 years later. Screw Coughlin, get him out, he ain't it, defense is bad, and then 60 days later, he's God,
Yeah, it's true. The highs. You know what? There's a statement. I love this one. Fridays wouldn't feel as good if Mondays didn't hurt as bad. That's a good way to put how it feels being a Giants fan.
Yeah, and really, the 2 Super Bowls that the Giants have, they are the most perfect of movie scripts that, Hollywood ready to go, and that's what those 2 Super Bowl wins were. Versus the Saints, they have their own story, and hey, Drew Brees come back, playing for New Orleans and playing for the city. It's a great story within itself, but at the end of the day, I would take our story, and getting it done twice rather than just once. So,
love it. All right, well, those were my my bottom of the barrel football takes that I see people just like hating each other over. In the community, but okay, I love it, and I like the story spin on it. I think that makes it an easier sell. All right, I just put down some things going on right now in the Giants spectrum. I always tell people on the podcast, I'm like, I know there's no football being played, but there's actually a ton of stuff going on.
Well, that's the best thing about the NFL.
It
just never stops.
It never stops. It's literally ultimate content. Just every day there's like something new. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I've been seeing talks heat up about Daniel Jones's 5th-year option. I don't know what sparked it back up. I thought I saw it like a month ago. I commented on it for a second, and then just recently it started coming back up again. People are like, "Oh, the 5th-year option. Are we gonna?"
Well, I think it was Mara. I think
Yeah.
it's because your friend John Mara started opening his mouth about Daniel Jones. We think we have our guy, blah blah blah, and I think that's what's sort of the whole fifth-year option thing. Yeah.
So let's add a topic in here right now. People give Jerry Jones a lot of crap, and people give a lot of football owners a lot of crap. John Mara is no prize. This guy, I do appreciate the way he spoke to the media the last time, like he had his full press conference, but this guy's got to cool it.
You know what, man? It's one of those things of if I trusted John Mara, which actually right now he's on my good side right now.
Me too. Yeah, we're talking from a good last couple of months.
Yeah, and the reason why he's on my good side is because I think he's letting Shane and Dable kind of do what they want.
When he got asked, when they asked, is this the lowest point ever as being the owner, and he said yes, I think that right there, I like looked and I'm like, oh hey, here's the corner. We're finally at the corner, Giants fans. Let's go be better again.
And I think he really wanted to keep Judge. I do think that he really wanted to keep Judge. And before the 11-minute rant that Judge went on, and before the QB sneak, I think Judge's job might have been safe. I really do. And I think it was Mara hitting that kind of rock bottom of, all right, we need to do things differently. We need to go about, the way that we go about being the New York Football Giants needs to be different. So when John Mara is meddling in football decisions and not forcing, but maybe giving his strongly advised opinion on things when it comes to major football decisions, a la keeping Eli.
That's what I was thinking.
Maybe drafting Saquon Barkley. I don't know any of how John Mara influenced those decisions, but he definitely did. And I think it all kind of stems with Eli, keeping Eli maybe a little too long, or maybe not asking him, hey, can you retire? Can you retire after 2017, 2018, whatever. When John Mara is not meddling in football decisions, he can kind of say what he wants. But when he's meddling in football decisions, and then also he's putting his foot in his mouth, that's when it's like, oh well. How are these words actually translating you to what you're telling the football people to do?
Absolutely. And then, so then John Mara, he started talking about Daniel Jones's 5th-year option. I guess I was curious what your opinion was. I think at first I was very much against it. I'm like, no way, no how. But the more I'm thinking about it, and I'm not saying I'm totally on this side yet, but I can be very bipartisan on opinions. I can see how someone could say, we just gave Daniel Jones an offensive guru coach. We don't know if the offensive coordinator is, an offensive guru, but he's obviously coming from a team that has had a lot of success.
Yep.
What if Jones has a breakout year next year and now we don't have the 5th-year option? He wants a deal.
Well, I think you franchise tag him.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things where if the Giants are looking at a spot where they had such a 2022 season where franchising Daniel Jones is on the table, I will be doing backflips over how
Me too.
That means that this season was the Giants, I think, would really have to sneak into the playoffs if we're talking about possibly franchising Daniel Jones, because the Giants this year should be better. Now, this is a talking point that I think is crap, and that segment that we just did. This year, like the New York Football Giants and Joe Shane, it's not about this year, where the Giants are going. The Giants are looking towards 2023, and they may be worse this year. I've seen, especially after Logan Ryan was cut, and I disagreed with that. Those were some of the replies I was getting.
I've talked about it.
It's not about 2022. It's about 2023, and they're gonna be bad again. They're gonna tank this year.
I don't think they're gonna tank, but
there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that are going to need to go wrong if the New York Football Giants are going to be worse than they were in 2021. Like really,
I can't imagine.
They can't. That will be a terrible, catastrophic. I mean, I'm not even talking about win-loss record.
Nope.
I'm just talking about quality of play, scoring points. But if you do score more points, like if the Giants win 6 games this year, that's what I'm kind of expecting. Yep. I would like them to win 6 games this year. And I don't think that's like an outlandish take, but based on, I think, some people's expectations, which I don't blame people for expecting really, really bad. But a goal for the Giants this year should be better than you were in 2021. Like, that should be just a blanket cover goal. But with Daniel Jones, I don't see them picking up the 5th-year option. I think they set up Tyrod Taylor's salary and his contract in a way where
you're damn right.
He is getting more money in 2023, which that is more of a reflection on how I think they view Daniel Jones versus how they view Tyrod Taylor. I think it's, hey, we're preparing for a scenario when we don't pick up Daniel Jones's 5th-year option, and just in case we don't have our long-term answer at quarterback in 2023, we're going to have Tyrod Taylor as a bridge quarterback, which that is not a very exciting scenario if you're a Giants fan, to go from Daniel Jones, which Daniel Jones should ideally be your bridge quarterback this year, to have another bridge quarterback. But if it has to be done, it has to be done, because this is a league where, and I think you saw it in this postseason, the NFL is a league where if you don't have a great quarterback,
you're nothing. Yeah,
you could stick around. You could be the 49ers and you can make NFC championship games. You could be the 49ers where you can make Super Bowls, but are you going to win them? And that's really where the league is kind of trending towards. And that's what the Giants, that's the situation that they're in right now. It's, if you don't have that great quarterback, are you really going to be competing for a Super Bowl? And I think Joe Shane, Brian Dable, and I even think John Mara understands that. He was talking about that exact same thing at the owners' meetings of these great quarterbacks that are winning playoff games and they're winning Super Bowls year in and year out. Mahomes and Brady. Brady's always been the exception of a veteran quarterback that's won. Stafford being traded really showed that he was an elite guy this year with the Rams. So if you don't have that great quarterback, are you really going to be competitive?
Yeah, so much to unpack. Stafford is the domino that has now pushed the Russell Wilson trade, has now pushed, just quarterbacks in general being now trade pieces, and teams being like, oh shit, I don't need to draft a quarterback. I can just go trade my whole front yard for one, and I'll still be okay. Yes, that's a really good point. I think John Mara's comment saying quarterbacks are important, but then you have to remember he also said we think we have one, which is where you're like, oh, okay. Right. But you got to build
the proof's going to be in the pudding of if they pick up that 5th-year option, which I don't think they are. I think Daniel Jones is going to have to play and earn, whether it is a franchise tag or it's a contract extension. I think there's a $7 million difference in franchise tagging, so $7 million more versus if they pick up the 5th-year option. So.
Yeah, which isn't awful, and it also saves you a whole year if you need to get out from under him. So that's definitely, I think that's definitely the better way to go. You swayed me back. You pulled me off the cliff there. So I don't know if you follow the Giants YouTube channel, but I did want to talk a little bit about all the interviews that just came out recently. I don't know if you got a chance to watch those.
Saw some quotes, but you want to know what? This will be good for thinking on the fly.
Okay. All right. I was just going to say, so I'll give my opinion. I love when they do these interviews, and I was really excited to hear these because I do think, even though we as a community didn't like Joe Judge, I do think the team actually really liked Joe Judge, and I think the defense really liked Patrick Graham, and I think Patrick Graham has a very burnt relationship with the Giants. I don't think that was leaving on great terms, at least from some of the articles that I had read up on. But the energy yesterday felt really good, actually. So, I personally, I tell this story a lot on the podcast. I feel bad for the people that listen all the time. But when the Giants lost to the Washington football team last year on the field goal, I renounced my Giants fandom for I had to break up with the Giants for a month. I said, I can't do this anymore. That was my lowest moment I've ever been because I just had Joe Judge screaming in my ear at his stupid press conference. We're not going to beat ourselves. We're no nonsense. Every play is going to have a history of its own. You're damn right it has a history. It's the history of an abusive relationship. This is bullshit. I was so mad. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to watch another football team. And I started watching the Bills. I swear to you, I sourced the Giants getting Brian Dable and Joe Shane. So either way, I love Brian Dable. I've loved Brian Dable since. So when they hired him, I was so excited. So Brian Dable's press conference was great. I love his energy. I feel like where Joe is trying to sell something, Brian's just no, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. I'm just being myself. And I don't know if that's the right mentality, but I like it a lot better than Joe Judge every play or every press conference being like a hard ass.
Now, here's the thing. I think Joe Judge was genuine. I think he's genuinely like that kind of as a person.
Yeah,
Like,
true. It might be.
Ultra attention to detail, and that's why dude, now that he's especially gone, I liked Joe Judge.
Me too.
I really did. I think he got a raw deal. I think Mara meddling, which this was a thing, and now especially that Judge was fired, more beat reporters have kind of confirmed it and stuff like that. Judge meddled with the Garrett thing.
Mara meddled with the Garrett thing.
Yeah, excuse me.
Yeah.
Mara meddled with hiring Garrett.
He wanted Brian Dable, and the Bills wouldn't let him go.
Dable. He wouldn't have gotten Dable.
Yeah, the Bills wouldn't
have
have
Ken Dorsey.
Yep.
He would have gotten Ken Dorsey, which he's now the offensive coordinator for the Bills right now.
Yep.
So that would have been his guy, and I would have really, really loved. Maybe Judge is still a conservative coach, and maybe the Giants' offense is capped because does he really believe these conservative things on offense? I don't know, but I would have loved to see Joe Judge work with an offense coordinator like he was able to work with Patrick Graham as a defense coordinator.
Such a good point.
His guy. That's something that I would have really liked to see. But Brian Dable, we'll talk about him. Like Joe Judge being himself, I think Brian Dable is also himself. It's just they're very different. And,
good point.
I do think Brian Dable is an attention to detail guy. I really do, but I don't know if he's gonna throw it in your face like Joe Judge did. And again, that's just who they are. It's not a knock on any of them. I think it's just kind of who they are. And I would like to think that the energy is good around the building because Brian Dable is really one of those guys where he's a player's coach, and you would hear stories about Stephon Diggs and him forming a really good relationship. Josh Allen and him formed a really good relationship. It was Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, when Dable was at Alabama for that 1 year, would go over to his house and they would cook steaks together and they would have dinner. And knowing Calvin Ridley, how he's kind of a personality, Brian Dable probably maybe had to keep him under the wraps a little bit out at Alabama. So, hopefully the energy is good around the building because there's new life, and Dable is one of those personalities that players can be attracted to, that they're going to be listened. I don't know how much the players' input was really received by the previous coaching staff about what works. Maybe I think Patrick Graham received it well. I don't know how much listening Jason Garrett's doing to other players about how certain plays and how certain route concepts in general, how it fits their strengths. That's what Brian Dable is going to be doing. That's not just something that he talks about. It's something that he actually does in practice, which I really, really like, and I really, really enjoy that. And I think the players like that too. It's like, oh, I have an opportunity now to really play in a system and play for a coach that wants to maximize my strengths.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. I do want to ask, and then so I got this, and then one more question, and then we can we'll wrap it up here, because I know I have such a time thing. I feel so bad when I take up too much people's time, so I apologize if I'm coming off.
You're good. I'm like the same way, but since we both have the understanding, there's people that will take up an hour and a half of my time, and then they're not cognizant of it. You're cognizant of it, and I'm okay with that. So,
okay.
Intentionality.
I did want to ask though, because maybe where my football knowledge is a little bit lacking. Have you? And you might not know the exact answer, so you can say, hey, I'm not as familiar with this. What is it about Jason Garrett's offense that didn't work? And then what is it about a Brian Dable or even a Mike Kafka offense that you're seeing that makes you feel a little bit better about it? And again, if I'm not a super big film junkie to where I dissect each play. So I don't know if you could maybe elaborate on that a little bit, because I do get community members asking me as well.
This is something that Bobby and I, we looked at and we talked about and analyzed for about 2 years straight. So
perfect.
This is
okay.
Honestly
great. I'm asking the expert.
This is the best question that you can ask me. Mike Kafka has come in here and he's talked about the importance of explosive plays. Explosive plays, explosive plays, explosive plays. And the NFL is becoming a league where if you produce explosive plays, particularly through the air, if you produce explosive plays through the air, and if you stop explosive plays through the air, you are more than likely going to be a successful football team. I think the rate this year was, if you finished in the top 10 of explosive pass play rate, I want to say your winning percentage was between 60 to 65%.
Wow.
If you average all of the teams in the top 10 of producing explosive pass plays. I want to say that. I definitely know in 2020 it was 60%. So more likely than not, if you're producing a big play at a top 10 rate, you are a winning football team. The Giants the past 2 years have not. They have not produced big plays at all. Like they're allergic to producing them. This past year, they were 32nd in explosive pass play rate, and I think in 2020, maybe they were like 28th, 29th, 27th. They were something.
It was 30th. You tweeted it actually. I used that tweet.
30th in 2020?
Yes.
Oh, good. So I just gave them more credit than they deserve. So what Jason Garrett's offense did not do is it never stretched the field. And I don't just mean by just running, deep routes or just producing big plays in general, but Bobby looks at this every single week he charts manually 2 or more route concepts that go 15 plus yards and then plays that don't have or 1 or less 15-yard plus route concepts, right? He charts that every single week using the All-22, and that's one of my favorite things that really anybody, and I'm a big fan of analytics, big fans of those sites, but it's one of my favorite things that anybody puts out every single week. And Jason Garrett, more often than not, rarely had plays and routes that had 2+ guys running 15-yard routes. Even if you're not going to throw the ball deep, there's value in guys running deep down the field, because what it does is it pulls guys out of the box. It pulls secondary players, it pulls safeties down the field. So then maybe if that deep option isn't available for you to throw, then you have something underneath that is open, and then you can get yards after the catch. Yep. And maybe you can get a 12, 13, 14, 15 plus yard play with yards after the catch if somebody's catching a ball that's 5 yards down the field. Jason Garrett's offense never stretched the field, never had guys running down the field to even attempt to stretch the field, and it was terrible, bottom of the barrel in yards after the catch. All of that combination led to Jason Garrett's offense being bad, not producing explosive plays, not finishing drives, not scoring points, and what helps teams like the Chiefs, what helps teams like the Buffalo Bills, is that they are able to produce those explosive plays. Brian Daboll is known for running those crossing routes over the middle of the field, kind of like I was saying with Malik Willis before, where I think he can fit this offense. Brian Daboll is known for running those crossing routes across the middle of the field, where if you're getting a quarterback out of the pocket and maybe utilizing play action, utilizing an RPO, which Brian Daboll likes to run a lot of RPOs too, and then boom, you have a quarterback that has that arm strength that can put a ball on a dime to a guy running across the middle of the field. That's what the NFL is. And the Kansas City Chiefs, I mean, Patrick Mahomes has been nothing but an explosive play machine the last couple of years, and especially with them getting yards after the catch. The Chiefs were a little bit better in yards after the catch than Brian Daboll's offense was with the Buffalo Bills, which is why I love those two brains have combined. They've combined their efforts. Two of the best, organizations and minds of the NFL, they're all coming together for the Giants. Which
what
I love.
Yeah.
So that's really the main difference between those offenses. They prioritize explosive plays. They recognize that the league is an explosive play league, while also getting yards after the catch, while also throwing it deep. And Jason Garrett just did none of those things. So,
yeah. And it's like Jason Garrett, I'm not going to lie, he was just such a nice guy. I was always rooting for him, but it just felt like when you were watching those games, it was just so brutal. I remember the game against the Chiefs, someone posted like a clip, and it showed 3 Giants wide receivers basically running into each other, and then Jones has nowhere else to go but in that area. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, maybe it wasn't Garrett, maybe it was like the execution, but Garrett's the offensive coordinator. Half of his job is execution, even if it's not even if the play's not executed right, that's still on him. So
and they brought him back for that second year because of continuity, and that's what Merrick, Gettleman, that's what everybody said. Continuity, COVID year, blah, 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 blah. Well, it got worse. Now, they weren't worse when Daniel Jones was still healthy, but the fact that they still weren't winning football games, and it was because of their offense, and it was because of their ability to not score points, not good.
Yeah.
Not good.
Yep. And then, where Judge, just as a final kind of bow tie for this for me is, Judge would have been able to keep his job, but the problem with Judge was, regardless of who was forced on him, at the end of the year, his decision-making on and off the field was so questionable and so concerning. He almost walked himself out the door.
When you become a national embarrassment, which the NFL and I think ownership and these things do matter, even though, we're as fans, it's like, well, the Giants are an embarrassment because they don't win games. That's not necessarily the perception on the national level. The Giants became a national embarrassment when Joe Judge had that 11-minute little rant, but even more when he had the QB sneak on the 3rd and 8 from like your own goal line. That's when you become an embarrassment to a national embarrassment. And I think that was part of the the line that was drawn in the sand for John Mara, the straw that broke the camel's back for John Mara, is when the Giants became a national laughingstock and not just a tri-state laughingstock.
You're damn right. I love it. Quickly about the draft. What's your dream scenario? If you get to pick, Justin wakes up April 30th, draft is over. We can just talk picks 5 and 7. Let's just talk pick 5 and 7. What's the dream scenario?
Neil Aquanu at 5, Thibodeau at 7. Or, excuse me, Thibodeau. I keep on freaking saying Thibodeau. So, yeah, tackle at 5. I'm not a big fan of Cross. So, Neil Aquanu, 5, Thibodeau, 7.
How likely do you think that's going to happen? I'm seeing mock drafts, Justin, where that happens all the time, and I'm thinking, man, I don't know if I'm just reading all the wrong stuff, but how could Thibodeau and Neal be at 5 and 7?
Dude, I don't know, man. Are you gonna fall in love with Trayvon Walker? Is a team gonna bite the bullet on Sauce Gardner? Which I'll tell you what, I don't mind if Sauce Gardner is a Giant. I just have anxiety and PTSD of
Eli Apple, DeAndre Baker.
Yeah, dude, taking a cornerback in the first round. It's not even just Giants. It's also like you look at Jeff Okudah.
Yeah,
where is he? He struggled his rookie year, and then he was hurt this past year. But still, like one of the most polished cornerback prospects of all time. Cornerback is so unpredictable, and it's an unpredictable position no matter where you kind of pick them. So I'm like my philosophy if I'm a GM is I prefer to spend a lot of cap space on corners since you know what you're getting. Like you know what you're getting out of seasoned vets at cornerback. Like I love what they did with the Dory Jackson and James Bradbury. So I'm a little hesitant to pick corners, especially high in the first round. If we're talking second, third round, sure, let's go for it. But you really want those first-round picks to be hits, like automatic hits.
Yep. And
that hasn't been the case for some teams in the past. But yeah, do Jets bite the bullet on a Sauce Gardner? Do the Lions bite the bullet on a Kayvon Walker? Do the Texans bite a bullet on Kayvon Walker? Possibly, do they see him as like this Richard Seymour defensive end lineman that can just be steady and stable and be an athlete? Like Cesario came from the Patriots mindset. Does somebody bite a bullet on Malik Willis? Does somebody trade up?
I'm hoping.
So all of these things can happen, which will leave a tackle or Thibodeau available for the Giants, and hopefully it's both, even though it is unlikely. I do think it's more likely that the Giants get one of their preferred tackles over Thibodeau.
Me too. I just think Thibodeau has such like a shine factor to him. People are just like fascinated by him. And analysts love to hate him, but we know what the analysts think. And I mean, I remember there was a time Andrew Thomas was going to go in like the 3rd round or the 2nd round.
Yeah.
So I
love how so many things change despite there being no football games played. Which I get it. And for the case of like Jermaine Johnson, we started Senior Bowl prep and he was projected to be like an early 2nd, maybe late 1st guy. Now he's projected and he's in the running for pick number 7.
If we trade back and get him though, like in the teens, I'd actually be super excited about that pick.
Yeah. I'll tell you, he may not even make it to the teens. It depends on how these teams view each of these guys, and this is what makes this year's draft so interesting, is that there's no clear cut like these are the top dogs besides Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep.
There's no and Neal and Evan Neal.
Yep.
Besides those two guys, I feel like there's no clear-cut consensus of this is the number one guy that you really want and you really need, and it's a slam dunk pick. So that's what makes this year's draft so different, is that, we like to think that it's Kayvon, it's Evan Neal, it's Aiden Hutchinson, it's Ikem Ekwonu, and it's Sauce Gardner. Like, those are the 5 best players that you can get in this year's draft, and that's the ideal big board, right? But that's not necessarily the case, where there's so much parity and there's so much disparity on how guys view their boards, and NFL teams boards, as we know every year, they could be vastly different than the consensus. So I'm excited to see how it's going to play out, but I'm more or less nervous about 5 or 7 And like I said, I'm excited about all the different possibilities that exist at 36.
Yep, yeah, and I'm definitely open to a trade back if, a lot of those guys, like you said, if Neal, Aquanu, and Thibodeau are gone, yeah, trade back.
Yeah, I'm open too, because especially when talking about how the Giants probably don't have their QB1 solution right now, you're seeing teams like the Eagles. They just acquired draft capital.
Oh my God.
I'm waiting for the day for the Eagles to pull like their Matt Stafford kind of trade. I'm waiting for it. I honestly thought the Eagles were going to trade for Derek Carr because I thought that made all the sense in the world. New regime in Las Vegas. Maybe they want their own guy. Maybe Derek Carr's not their guy. And I thought the Eagles had the draft capital with those 3 first-round picks to get Derek Carr. And then tell me if the Eagles get a quarterback like Derek Carr. Not saying Derek Carr necessarily. They get a quarterback like Derek Carr. Do they not become like second favorites in the NFC? Or now Brady's back. So third favorites in the NFC behind the Packers and the Bucks?
Yeah, and the Rams. I still think the Rams.
And the Rams, yeah.
But, yeah, and I think Nick Sirianni is a super underrated coach. I mean, I made fun of that goofball all day when he had his first press conference, and then look at him. I mean, after the Giants game, he learned his lesson. Run, and he's actually a pretty damn good head coach. And I hate the Eagles, but I'll admit a good coach when I see one. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the Eagles are a quarterback away from being a pretty damn competitive team. I hope they take 2 more first-round wide receivers, though, and they both suck.
That would be great.
They're really good at that. Devontae Smith will be good, but...
That would be great. Just keep on taking those first-round ones. Don't gamble on talent in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round like, maybe you're ideally supposed to do at wide receiver. No, keep on taking these first-round guys. Keep going and keep on missing on them.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, Justin, thank you so much for doing this. It was really great getting to chat with you for a little bit. I appreciate you opening up about, your YouTube past and just getting into football and all that stuff. So the final thing I just want to talk to you quickly about, because you kind of alluded to it, was some of the upcoming plans you have for Talkin Giants. And for everyone who's listening to this podcast on Spotify or on YouTube, we'll have links to everything down below so you guys can go subscribe to them, because they seriously are one of my favorite Giants content creating YouTube channels, not just podcasts like we've talked about. But what's kind of the upcoming plans for you guys? Obviously the draft, and you were so talk about that.
Yeah, so right now, outside of what we're doing on Talkin Giants, Bobby is posting 2 times a week, all the way up until the draft. He's posting draft breakdowns of draft prospects. If you're wondering, why isn't Talkin Giants posting draft prospect breakdowns on their channel? It's because we're doing it on Talkin Football now, and we want to start growing our all football content, not just our Giants coverage. So Talkin Football on YouTube. TBD if it's going to be a podcast or not. We're thinking about right now. Maybe it's just going to be a dope YouTube channel. We'll see about that. The draft stream, which we will be doing on Talkin Giants and Talkin Football. I'm really excited for that. It's like some 15, 16 hours, all combined throughout the 3 days. We're gonna be live streaming in the John Boy Media office in Manhattan. I know Grump is gonna be there, who was interviewed on this show. Danny King is gonna be there. Myself, I'm gonna be there. Bobby Skinner's gonna be there. Snacks may be there. We may have some other guests too. So that's gonna be
awesome.
A lot of fun through those 3 days. Those are some of the most. When we get to those days, it's a lot of work leading up to it. But when we get to those 3 days, it's probably the 3 most fun days of the year. We all just hang out together and we watch the NFL draft. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned to Talkin Football. We're gonna have a lot of fun with all the content that we do. So Will, I appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Heck yeah, man. I hope in the future you'll join us again. I definitely want to have guests back on. I'm thinking I might rerun through a lot of my guests after the draft, and then we can really get a look at this team and what we can expect. So, like I said, everyone, there'll be links down below to everything. Justin, thank you again, and I will see everyone soon.